Everyone, welcome back in.
Hey. Did you see that? Sorry, I ran right over your intro. I couldn't find the right video because we switched StreamYards here. So that says Valero Texas Open DFS preview. That's not what we're doing. That's not what we're doing.
This is not
where
we're at.
Right state, the right state.
We are in Texas. We're in Houston for the Texas Children's Houston Open. This has been the Cadence Bank. This has been the Hewlett Packard. But that was all swing season. We are moving into a March, obviously a March event instead of where we've been in the past, which is I think part of the handicap discussion here this week, Andy. But hey, first let's rest in peace. Let's rest in peace. Match play, because we'd be doing match play this week, right? So Florida's behind us. No match play. It's not on schedule. I don't know what's going on. Always like just a terrible betting event, in my opinion. Or at least looking historically for me, I've got absolutely my ass handed to me year after year. But the fun of like filling out a bracket and trying to make it, and I love that course. But anyway, no match play. We're in Texas still though.
Yeah, match play was always horseshoes for me. Real close. I always would take some long shots on a guy to make the Final Four. And every year I seem to have, I'd take like 2 or 3 guys at big prices to make the Final Four. They'd get to the final 8. I'd never hedge, and then they'd lose to one of the top golfers. I think I had like Hoagie one year at like 90-1 or something to win it. And, a really good price. So I never did cash big. I don't love match play outside of Ryder Cup stuff, obviously. Then it's great. But it was fun to fill out the bracket. You guys that love DFS, it's a really fun, kind of thought exercise, whatever. Strategizing, trying to figure out how to maximize your lineups to make sure you're not overlapping too much in the same quadrants, regions. So I did love filling out the bracket. I guess I never did very well. Shout out to Link Calhoun, who won we did a bracket challenge last year on the site. He was the last winner of that. And yeah, this is a promotion. It's funny, Link Calhoun from Houston, he just sent me pictures. He went to this event like in 2020. This was like the first event that they let people come to, like after they started opening things up after COVID a little. So, but it was like a very limited crowd. So there's pictures of him that are basically like shots from TV where it's, the players in the foreground and then it's like him and his wife with masks on way in the background. So
mask with a vape pen underneath the mask.
Yeah. And obviously it was a swing season event. So this is the call up to the bigs. You're now a Masters lead-up event. We had some Texas guys that are playing. Not a bad field. It's going to be, we said this, really tough to tell what next week's going to bring. But the last week and this week, it's going to be a handful of decent top golfers. And then I guess that leads us into Malnati season. The guy hasn't won on tour for like a decade. He's never really in the mix all that much. He's had a decent spring here and there, but that was not a name we discussed last week.
Did not make the show. It was like a weird, like the leaderboard, especially in the weekend too. And I like Brandon Todd fell off, but it was like team putt. I made the reference yesterday. It was like a bunch of all the good putters basically showed up. Like Mackenzie Hughes is up there. Obviously Malnati, that's, kind of the calling card of his game. So yeah, cool to see. I mean, obviously, when a mule on the back half comes in and wins, that's such a great selling point. And as someone who is on the PGA Tour, like players board, he took the opportunity in his post presser to really kind of drive home the fact that like, this is the magic that you get with full field events. This is what you wouldn't get in, limited fields, small field events. You wouldn't have any of this. That's really been the entire story outside of the back-to-back weeks of Scotty for the entirety of the 2024 season. It's been massive long shots and having some of these guys like Malnati, who's been just a grinder for a decade, get home, which is, really cool stuff. So I do think that is a cool selling point for the tour moving forward to be like, hey, look, this stuff doesn't happen without these guys having 144-man fields or 154-man fields. So cool to see. Good for him. And, again, like, he's a professional golfer. He hasn't been winning. He's making money. He has his tour card year over year. Like, this is not like I feel bad for these guys, but like, there are expenses that mount up for these guys that aren't making more than like 60-70% of their cuts. Now, again, they're making more than most people, the average income. But to see them be able to, get a nice win and cash that for him and his family, which is, that was pretty cool to see.
Yeah, I'm not sure he's actually ever played in the Masters. I don't think so.
He's not.
His previous win was a Sanderson, and that's back when winning a swing season event did not get you in.
No, he's never played the Masters.
That's exciting. I thought they'd said that. I had to double check because it's like, well, he won before. But the swing season events did not used to, get you much of anything. So he's got a chicken trophy. Now he has a paintbrush trophy, 2 weirdest trophies, maybe outside of some of the stuff you get on the DP tour. Yeah, super, good for him, obviously. And we said that too with some of these guys. We had the 2 weeks of Scotty, but if you go back to, the beginning of the season there, we had these weeks and weeks and weeks where it's like, oh my God, 150 to 1. Oh my God, 110 to 1. Oh, 80, 120, all these huge numbers. All those guys are in the Masters. It's crazy when you look at like the winners. If you go look at the Masters odds right now, the winners from this year, it's like, Scotty and one other guy anywhere near the top. And obviously they'd be in an OWGR or anything else. Or obviously Scotty, lifetime exemption. He does have a coat. But then all the other guys are like 150 or better to win the Masters. It's like, these are the guys that have won on tour. Like, I'm tempted to take some of these nasty prices on guys that have a little bit of win equity. Like, why would I add Spieth at 15 to 1 when I can have somebody like this? It's one. I'm not saying we're adding Peter Malnati 500 to 1 to win the Masters. But there's some guys in that 100 to 1 range that definitely are interesting as we're starting to get. And that is the beauty of these majors. I can't sit and make a bet for like Valero right now. That market's not open. That field's not even really, finalized, obviously, until Friday. But I can make a bet on the Masters. That's a market that's up constantly. So maybe something we'll touch on a little next week as we are 1 week closer and we're sitting there with, everyone but the final winner, if it is somebody who's not in the field, and possibly some guys who end up on the right side of the, the top 50, the OWGR kind of rankings to get into the Masters field. That said, let's spin to Houston.
Yeah, tickets to be punched with a win here too. So, that's how Molinari is in, and you can see who else can take home. Someone can knock down Scotty this week, or take home the Valero next week. You can get yourself in there as well. I'm excited for the Masters to kind of get the rest of the markets out there too. The top debutante market, I think, is going to be very interesting. You have multiple, guys making their debut that are 30 or shorter on the odds board. Mostly it's Wyndham Clark and Ludwig Oberg, who are guys we would expect to profile pretty well here, that are fairly short, playing some good golf, and they've never been here. And it's the place probably, I think, historically with the most course history in terms of pulling forward. So Texas Children's Houston Open, good field.
Memorial Park
at Memorial Park. Yeah, we are at Memorial Park.
Good mouthful.
It is a lot. Decent. What do we have? 6 of the top 30 of the official World Golf Ranking is where you are now. Obviously led by Scotty. Scotty also holds the course record here after dropping a 62 in round 2 back in 2021, the start of the 2022 season. So there's that, considering all that's going on in the world of Scotty right now. Sub 3 on the outright board, which is very, very interesting. It's again it's kind of where we're at, right? It's a Scotty or not Scotty discussion, but a very challenging course. It's long from a par 70 standpoint to play like 7,400 or so from the tips. I touched on at the top here quickly. We saw, going back to the Masters, we had the Masters in November in COVID. We saw how different it played versus it being, in the spring. And we're going to have that here. And they've done a few different things here. We obviously have different grass We are kind of like poetry of greens again, instead of it being like just a Bermuda all the way around. We're still not there yet. And we have like an attempt, it seems like, to make it a little bit easier, player friendly, 1.25 inch ryegrass rough, which is pretty forgiving. I mean, most
I
munis
think
you're going to
that's going to
play
make it. Yeah, it's going to make a decent difference because this was nasty, penal, thick Bermuda rough when it was played in the fall, and obviously,
spongy, grabby.
These courses that are in these areas that get so damn hot in the summer, they have to do things different. The agronomically. I'm just making up words now.
I think I made a word.
Agronomically,
that sounds way better.
That sounds like a pretty good.
I think it's probably right.
Yeah, they do have to do things. It's like what we talked about with moving the players from May to March. That's a small move. Sure. This is fall to spring, which you're getting a different life cycle. And obviously, warm season grasses are different than cool season grasses, but still very, very much going to play differently than when they had this in the fall. And I think, obviously a big part of that is going to be the ryegrass rough. A lot easier to, when you're hitting out a rough and it's tall or it's thick or it's, certain types of grasses that will grab your ball. Sometimes it's just hard to get a lot of spin. And as we talk about this course, we're going to mention there's no bunkers hardly, there's no water, there's not a lot of defenses like that. A big defense other than the Texas winds is going to be these greens, which are hard to carry, hard to catch, hard to stay on. They're fast, they're bouncy. They're described as bouncy by some of the players. So when you're not able to, check your ball back out of the rough because you can't get the right spin on it out of that Bermuda, it makes it that much more hard. And I wonder that, some of the accuracy off the tee is going to matter less because of this easier rough. And you're going to be able to, find some of these tough greens. It's still not going to be easy, but easier in relation to what we've seen in the past. So it's probably going to be a little lower scoring than, what we've seen.
Yeah, last time we were here was fall of 2022, the Cadence Bank Houston Open, and Finau took it down at 16 under. But you basically he was 10 strokes ahead of the guys at tied for T9, kind of a bunch of guys there. So he kind of ran away with it a little bit. Led comfortably going into the weekend and just kind of solidified that going in. And it's an interesting leaderboard because when you look at it, it's definitely a driver heavy grip it and rip it style course, but you do find some decent positional accuracy guys in the mix in the top 10 as well. And you mentioned maybe that's a little different because it was something where you wanted to avoid, you needed to get it down there and bang it down there, but you wanted to avoid the rough because of the spongy nature of the Bermuda. Because, Alex Noren, Aaron Rai, Joel Damon's played well here in the past. Not necessarily guys that we would profile as bombers. They were rewarded for their ability to kind of keep it in the short stuff. So interested to see how that changes. Because right now, for me, it's very much a grip it and rip it course.
Quick aside, have you gotten anywhere with I can't think of the name of the Netflix golf show. It is very much escaping. Full swing.
Yeah, I'm on episode 2. Andy and I were talking about this.
I was going to say, I won't spoil it for you, but man, they kind of dog on Joel. There's an episode where it's heavily Joel featured, and I kind of feel bad for the guy. After he was a lot of fun on the first season, so I've gotten stuck there too as I've had some other responsibilities. Haven't been able to watch as much TV. Also bought a book that I kind of bought up some of my time, but I'm going to try to get back to that and watch some of those episodes later this week. I like to try to take the golf one in at least because I do like what they do. It is funny how if you watch enough golf and you pay attention, you're like, well, that's not really how it is. Like they're kind of building this up a little more than it is, and it's silly, but it's still such a fun show. But
yeah, I like it. I know it's for us, right? It's not we're we're the golf hardos, but my wife likes to watch it and wants to watch it, so I'm like,
my wife likes it too
because I can't watch it because she falls asleep so damn early every night. So that's why we're still on episode 2. We'll watch 15 minutes at a time, and it's just
I don't want this to devolve into Andy drugged his wife, but I'm looking into ways to sneak caffeine into her food. Can we get you to stay up to like 9:30? That'd be great. So that's my goal for Wednesday, is to watch an episode or two after I do the deep dive tomorrow. Tonight, I will focus more on building out some more models for this week, a couple more course notes for Memorial Park Golf Course before we head into some of the key stats that we're going to need for the winners here. Long par 70, like you said. It is 7,400 yards, which is not that long, but it is when it's a 70. Like, that is considered very long as far as, yards per hole or yards relative to par, or whatever you want to put it as. Like you said, the overseeded dry grass, fairways, the rough, the firm, bouncy greens. I mentioned very much lack of bunkers, lack of water hazards. It's going to be a lot different than what we saw in Florida. The contoured greens, the bouncy greens, the fast greens. You're going to have some windy conditions. I haven't checked too deep into the weather that we've seen, and not predictive. From 2 or 3 things I've read, including Ron's preview, course history, not terribly predictive. Probably going to be even less so, considering they're moving it from a fall event to a spring event. There's going to be a bunch of guys who just didn't play in the fall event that are going to be, featured now because they're going to have to play it as a Masters lead up kind of thing. And we're going to see a stronger field than normal. Tough course in general. We'll see if that changes with some more top players here. It's still going to be, tougher than average, but I think Ron had it as the 6th toughest course on tour on average. And a good closing stretch. Another thing that, if you're a member and you get access to all the premium written content, Ron does a good job of highlighting some of this. But it's not just like the snake pit and the bear trap. Like, it's 15 to the end. They're all tough. There is some, there's some water on 16 and 17. There's a nasty dog leg on a long par 4 to close us out. It's a cool closing stretch. So as we said, it might play a little softer. We might have some lower scores. It's still a good closing series of holes, which I like.
Yeah.
Because, just think about the drama we had at the Players. It's fun to have good, challenging risk-reward holes at the end of a tournament, especially when there's a couple, because, on the off chance you get fucking 4 top end. I mean, who's the 4th? Xander. So 3 very recent major winners and an Olympic gold medalist. We'll give him something.
We'll give him something.
I mean,
top 10 in the world.
I mean, he's a top golfer. Like, if you can have that, that's such a perfect storm of, man, how good do we have it? It's the LeBron meme where he's looking up and like, can't believe this is my life, getting to watch these guys all hitting the Sawgrass 17 here. So hopefully, the pomp and circumstance probably a little less at Houston, but we can hope.
Yeah, I mean, probably different than Cam Young, Peter Malnati, and Mackenzie Hughes coming down the stretch. So
we had basketball. The tournament was on. It was fine. All right, key stats. Let's kind of tune in on some stats we think that can win this week. Some stats we're going to want to use for modeling. Just maybe back and forth off the top. Distance has been a major advantage.
1,000%.
Do you think it's going to be? I've seen some people say maybe less so, but back to my theory about the rough being less penal. I think these guys who hit it 340 and maybe spray a little are going to have even more luck, because it might not matter if they're a little off the fairway.
Yeah, I would love to hear the case for less than, it being less important this week. Because like you said, I feel like it's been all over the leaderboard here in the 3 years we've been to Memorial Park. And again, there's guys been mixed in, but those guys I think are less likely because there's less of a, missed fairway penalty at this point with, having the ryegrass be so short in the rough. So yeah, I mean, it is 1,000% a tiebreaker, a priority. You're gaining strokes off the tee or tee to green and driver heavy courses. Like this is there's no forced layups. They did a redesign. Actually, Koepka led the redesign in 2019, ironically. They removed a bunch of like the bunkering too. Like there's just not a lot of not a lot of penalty. Like it's one of those courses where they say everything's right in front of you. Like it's not a place where there's not a ton of dog legs or things like that. And even though some of them you can carry. So yeah, off the tee, 1,000% mattering this week. Some of the redesigned stuff too, shaved runoffs around the green. So they took away some of like the rough aprons. You do have like, again, I don't want to say Memorial Park is like Augusta, but I think it's a good Augusta prep because that is obviously a calling card of what we see in a couple of weeks. And, scrambling from the short grass is something that I think is going to matter a ton this week as well. So those are a couple of the key ones.
Yeah, those recessed runoffs that aren't tall grass.
Yeah.
You can almost just picture some of these shots from Augusta over the years where the guys are, just off the green, standing 3 feet below it and having to pitch, having to, really key in on their short game. That's been a predictive stat here. As far as, when you look at leaderboards, you do see a lot of guys that have had a lot of luck, have gained a lot of strokes around the green. I don't think that changes just because of what we've done with some of these shaved runoff areas. It's still going to matter because it is hard to hold these greens. And, I hate to say it, but like after you get past the top names, it's not a great field. So there's going to be, it's not going to be Morikawa and Zal throwing darts at these holes. There's going to be a bunch of guys that just, hey, I'm a really good golfer. Whip our asses, but I'm not, I'm not Scotty Scheffler with my irons. I'm going to miss a bunch of greens, and these guys are going to need to, they're going to need to scramble. They're going to need their around the green acumen to make it happen here. What else did I have? Yeah, around the green was important. Obviously, approach every week. I don't know what to do with the greens. They're fast and they're, there's some undulation, some tearing. I'm not sure if putting's important. Like you got to make your putts. Look what happens when Scotty, suddenly became a slightly above average putter. Oh, he won by 5 strokes. It does matter. Go look at what happened to JT when he putted 38 times that round. Like the rest of the round kind of doesn't matter. So putting's always important, but I'm not so sure how to include it in modeling or as a key stat.
I have some thoughts.
Maybe on fast greens, because that is something.
They're actually pretty big greens. There is, like you said, the kind of the contouring quadrant situation here where it's a big green, but if you're in the wrong spot on the green, all of a sudden you have a very challenging putt on these, very fast poetry of greens as well. So 3-putt avoidance, maybe, bogeys or something like I think those are interesting ways to kind of capture scoring / putting and well. So yeah, we can do that when we build some models, build some stuff out here and see what we got. Let's do this. Let's talk about too how people can get subscription over at BetSports Golf for super duper cheap through our friends over at Vivid Picks. This deal is changing in the coming months, so take advantage of it now. Also, pricing in general at BetSports Golf going up as soon as that jacket goes on Scotty or whoever it ends up being. Prices are going up here for every subscription at BetSports Golf. Now, we've held off on doing this to ensure that we could grandfather in any people that jumped in before we've done this. So this can still apply to you. You could still get in on what I guess we should call early bird pricing and hold that price for life. For as long as you stay on renewal of your subscription, you will hold the price that you get for weekly, for monthly, for an annual subscription. That will change again moving forward. Right now, you can get access to it for super cheap through our friends over at Vivid Picks. It is a DFS pick'em site. Some of the other ones you're familiar with out there. If you want to just, look at different ways to build basically DFS pick'em parlays, download the Vivid Picks app today. Use promo code BetSportsGolf, and you will, with just a $5 deposit and play, get access to everything at BetSports Golf for the year for just that $5. No strings attached, no hidden fees. If you like these games, they will first deposit match up to $250, which is huge. It's the best in the industry. So if you like to play over there, take advantage of that as well. You might be in a state that doesn't have Vivid Picks. Just DM us on Twitter at BetSports Golf. We'll get you a promo code to take advantage of a discounted month or an annual subscription. This is obviously a affiliate deal. We can't get you a $5 subscription, but we can obviously get pretty competitive and let you get a taste, dip your feet in, dip your toes in for a month, and see if it's something that makes sense. And again, you can lock in that price for a month for the rest of eternity if you would like. And I think you want to do that because we have the best modeling tool in the space that's going to continue to get better. We've got lots of cool things continuing to happen on the back end that hopefully have some cool tournament pages and player pages here in the near future. We're hoping for Augusta, but we'll see. I know a lot of work's going on in the back end, but those things are coming. So you don't have to leave the site. All your golf research can be done on BetSports Golf.
Yeah, we did just fully design the player pages. It is in the hands of the developers. Like Ryan said, we spent money on making sure the grandfathering would work. We spent development time to make sure we could offer those prices. So prices will never be this low again. That is the thing. They're going up after the Masters. I can't convince the powers to be to keep them this low. I'm sorry. Such is life. But yes, let's start building a model on said rabbit hole. Let's look. So we got the Texas Children Houston Open field up. We're looking at stats from the last 12 months, all regions, all types, all courses, all rounds, last 36 rounds, what you have selected here, just on the basic screen, but we're going to pop around. We'll add a few stats from certain time frames and certain filters and mash them all together and see if we can come up with something halfway predictive. What do you want to start with today, Ryan?
Yeah, you're seeing this for the first time. It's also, if you're a new subscriber, there's this watch tutorial button. I should probably update that because we have some new stuff. But again, you want to get kind of a 5-minute walkthrough of how to do it. We're going to show you lots of things. There are a lot of different ways to chop up this data. Hopefully you can follow along and it makes a ton of sense. Some unique features too. You can display this. We're looking at rank for these stats right now, but you can do average, total, percentage of rounds gained. You can download any of these things into a CSV and slice and dice and create other models and other whatever you want to do. It's a really cool, unique feature as well. You can look at our experts. You want to see the model that I built. Andy Lack from Inside Golf Podcast, his model is in here. Matt Vicenzi, the Tap It In podcast, his stuff is in here too. You'll get something from Andy and Ron here shortly as well. So you want to see what we're doing. We'll see what stats we're weighing this week that matter to us. You can go ahead and look what we have here as well. So maybe start with some recent form, I guess, 2024. We have a building sample, Andy, if you would agree in terms of what's happened so far this year.
Mentioned this a couple weeks back, but it's tougher to do it early in the spring. But, looking at those sample sizes that we have now, those are decent samples for some of these golfers. We're looking at 20 plus rounds. We're looking at how have you played since we started golfing. And you can do what Ryan did there. Just make sure we have a minimum, kind of sussing out some of the guys that, hey, you've played like 6 rounds, but they were good. You're going to show up at the top. Let's not have that. We don't want small sample size outliers affecting this that much. So
especially for an anchor stat.
Yeah, Scotty's at the top. Wyndham Clark. See, I mean, it's going to follow the odds fairly closely for the most part. But yeah, we call it an anchoring stat when we do this sort of thing, just to make sure when we go granular, we're not getting some weird stuff. So go total strokes gained over whole rounds played in 2024. Add that to the model. We'll save that for later. And then start to figure out, should we just add driving distance? And we talked about it. I don't see how you can put together something with key stats in a mixed condition model and not have it.
Totally agree. Again, I don't think this is a instance where carry distance would be relevant for us.
Ryegrass, it's gonna run out pretty fine. Same thing with apex or clubhead speed. It's not like we're fighting through the tough, Zoysia. We're not fighting through the Bermuda anymore. It's not going to matter as much out of this rough if you have that massive clubhead speed, I don't think.
Yeah, I think apex height, we could talk about it, but I think because they're firm and fast, and you are coming again, there's not like a key proximity range that I think needs to be focused in on, but there are a lot of 200 plus. Again, those aren't necessarily your scoring approach shots, right? Those are kind of going to be survival approach shots for the week. But looking last year, 34% of the approach shots last time they played here were from 200 plus. So You could sell me on apex height being mixed in, but again, it's subjective for people. But I think you make a good point. Like club head speed to like get through the thick stuff, probably not mattering at all this year comparatively. So, but I do think driving distance is something that we 1,000% need to capture. Again, some familiar names here and some guys that are, again, when you have the two best players in the field also popping in driving distance, it's going to be really hard to not have Scotty and Wyndham Clark at the top of a model, and that makes sense. They should be at the top of the model this week. So driving distance, I'm going to click on. You could sell me on some of the other stats from a driving standpoint mattering, and I think I want to do that and get a sense of what you think too. I don't mind having, because it is going to be driver heavy. Let's go in here to the condition. Let's look at off the tee club being driver heavy. Let's see what kind of sample we get here. Last 12 months. 16 rounds. Let's back it up a little bit. See, we get maybe 18 months, not a ton. Let's see if we get strokes gained off the tee when we have, we're not getting a huge sample. I didn't mess around with this, but I was thinking about it. But yeah, pretty small sample. So maybe noisy, not something that I would want to like capture in here when like we're getting everyone at like 12 rounds or so, but just something to look at, maybe confirmation bias if you're leaning somewhere. But for me, not something that I want to. Again, that's why we called the rabbit hole, right? We went down the rabbit hole, looked at it. We're not doing it. We're not adding it.
Said nah.
Nope. Yeah, because we're going to go back too far for that to be a relevant sample of data. So, all right. What else do we want to do? Off the tee, we did approach. I mean, I don't want to get too fancy approach-wise, Andy. Like I said, I don't think there's anything from a proximity bucket that we want to mess around with. Greens and regs, strokes gained approach. What are your thoughts?
It's going to be a tougher greens and reg tournament or course than average, I would think.
Yeah.
Again, is it with the with the different agronomy, with the different field?
It's fair.
Yeah.
Greens and reg down 3% or so versus a tour average event over the 3 years in the fall. So
I'd almost rather put some putting or scoring stats like 3-putt avoidance, something along those lines than, I don't think we should discount approach because it's approach and it matters so much. So maybe we just throw basic approach in there. Don't get too cute with it this week. Don't have to get too granular, too deep in the weeds and the filters. There's a million filters, but you don't have to use them. We can just look at good old fashioned, this is your granddaddy's SG stats. Just approach, put in some around the green. We'll put in some 3-putt avoidance, and honestly, I think we'd be pretty close at that point.
Yeah, I like to do this. So, your thoughts? Let's. I got a small sample here of last 20 rounds of approach. I'm going to add this strokes gained approach last 20, and then let's take a longer view, and we'll just mess around with the weights. See who's just kind of a long-term approach player and who's popping recently. Again, your top guys here are, your top guys in the 50 or similar to your top guys in the 20. So they should be rewarded for that, but we'll just kind of slice up how we weight that. So I think
for sure. I do this. I do this with like 4 or 5 different time frames sometimes on total, on greens and regulation, on approach to see who's like what direction are you heading. And obviously you need to realize this too. When you're looking at last 20 rounds and last 50 rounds, really consider your weighting because you're counting those last 20 rounds twice.
Correct.
Yep. So know that when you put your 2 weights in for those.
Yep. Really good point. We mentioned around the green being really important this week. I wouldn't overfit it with a condition. We have the ability here to look at scrambling from short grass, which I think matters a ton. What are your thoughts here on Ron made a good point for around the green proximity on our first look show, and I thought that was really interesting too. Again, you could scroll over any of these stats to get the definition if they are newer stats to you, but around the green proximity is capturing how close the ball is to the hole after being hit onto the putting surface from a point that is 30 yards or less from the edge of the green. So I think this does tell an interesting story that we're trying to capture. But again, scrambling short grass does as well. Any thoughts there?
Yeah, we can just go that short grass or just straight up our ARG.
Yeah, so these guys, we have a pretty small sample. We haven't had a lot of Hendrik Norlander so far this year. He's getting bumped up there. I don't want him to throw
Do you
off the
want
model.
to? I mean, do you want to get rid of 2024? Look at
Oh, I'm my fault. I'm on 2024. That's
yeah.
yeah, reset it. Here we go. That makes way more sense. And look who's near the top. Young Scotty Scheffler. All right, this is around the green, short grass. Again, you don't have to put a description or a note here. It makes it a little bit easier for you, and I think it's helpful for the stream purposes. Again, if you are listening, I apologize. Come over to the YouTube channel to watch this, but we will try to continue to cite who these who's coming on the top of these things. So around the green, we got captured. Putting, do you want to do scoring instead? Do you want to do, or no, putting? We talked about three putt avoidance. Let's take a look at that.
I think 3-putt avoidance is going to matter because your lag putting on fast surfaces is going to matter here. You're going to find yourself 40, 50 feet from the hole on a different level. It might be a nasty downhiller. You're going to have some spots where there's going to be some really, nervy putts that you're not trying to make. You're just trying to avoid, getting on the green in regulation and bulkying that hole.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. Just looking at some of the 3-putt avoidance leaders here. Wyndham Clark at the top. Jason Day tied with him there. Jake Knapp, smaller sample, but not small. Which is interesting to see. Aaron Badley, a good putter. Jacob Bridgman, again, kind of he's been playing some decent golf. Justin Hadley, Mackenzie Hughes, Trace Crow, Victor Perez, Tom Hoagie, who's kind of fixed some putting woes here. It's kind of your interesting guy. Siwoo Kim, who again, strokes gain putting, bright red, not performing well from a strokes gain putting standpoint, but does not leave himself with a lot of 3-putts. He just misses close 2-putts, which is interesting to see. So we'll add that to the model here. 3-putt avoidance. All right. Do you want to do anything scoring wise, or what are your thoughts there?
I still have mixed feelings about how low this is going to go.
Yeah,
I think just everything we've including is going to be hey, if all those things are working out, you're going to find birdies
for sure. No, I agree there.
So I think we might have just about enough.
Okay, I want to look at this. I want to look at apex height because I think again we don't have to add it to the model, but I think it is interesting to see some of the guys that have. Jason Day's played pretty well here before, hits the ball a mile high. You have some guys that I think are interesting because I do think you're going to have something here in terms of holding these greens. Joseph Bramlett hits it hard and high and fast. He had a nice finish here last year, nice finish last week as well. Finau won here last year. Again, apex height and club head and ball speed are on the up and up for him this year. They are trending upwards. So again, something maybe to look at. Again, you can make the determination if you want to add it to your model. I think for the sake of what we have here for the show today, we have enough stuff here. So you just click this create mixed condition model button. We're working on something on the back end that can do the math for you, so you don't have to do this. I'll give it a name. This is Noonan and Andy betting show Houston Open. All right. Yeah, I mean, 6 things. It's kind of where we typically land on the show. It's good. Anchor stat, strokes gained total 2024. Big old number, maybe 25.
Yeah, I'm comfy with that.
Yeah. Let's tackle this approach situation here. As you mentioned, we're double counting the last 20. How should we break up last 50, last 20?
So just know, like, if you go 10 and 20, that is 30% of your model is including the last 20 rounds of approach, which is maybe not all that much when you're going only with 6 stats. So, something along those lines. I'd go lighter on the last 20 than the last 50.
Yeah. Maybe 10, 15. So we do 25 basically from an approach standpoint.
Sure.
Which I think makes a lot of sense. All right. Driving distance. I want to give it 15 and 20 at least, because I really think it matters.
20. I'm fine with 20.
Okay. All right, so that brings us to 70, 15 split here on the bottom. which is probably a little bit more than I want to. But again, like Ron mentioned in his preview, like again, we don't typically weigh around the green as much, but last time we were here,
I'm
2022,
fine doing it here. Yeah.
Yeah, 27% of the strokes gains at Memorial Park came from around the green. It was the highest rate on tour the last time we were here. So I do think it's one of those weeks where it does probably matter a little bit more. So we'll go 15. I want to maybe go 10 here. Let's give 5 somewhere else. Let's maybe just anchor with this. 3-putt avoidance, I think maybe a little. 10's probably as high as I'm willing to go.
It's plenty. Yeah.
All right, let's see what we get here. Do we get Scotty and Wyndham?
I'd assume so. I don't know. We put 3-putt avoidance. Scotty and Finau probably take a little bit of a bump down.
Ooh, Windy C.
Wyndham number 1. Wyndham just edging him out.
This is where he's going to beat him too, right? You know, the putting stuff. I thought Wyndham would actually be higher in the scrambling from a short grass standpoint, but yeah, he's still obviously one of the better ones in the field. But yeah, I mean,
it's just so close to everywhere else when you're looking at a short sample here.
Yeah. Yeah. So the top of the model here, if you are listening, Wyndham Clark, tops on the model. Scotty Scheffler, second in the model. Sahith Theegala, third in the model. Keith Mitchell. This is, I don't know, Theegala, I think, calls Texas, Houston area home currently. Keith Mitchell, fourth. Siwoo Kim, fifth. Tony Finau, technically your defending champ, sixth. Tom Hoagie, TCU Horned Frog, seventh. Kurt Kitayama, eighth. Doug Gim continue to get massive rewards for ball striking. Ninth. Victor Perez, 10th. Very, very interesting top 10 there comparatively. Some other interesting names outside of that here. Steven Yeager at 12. Will Zalatoris, 14. Luke List, 15. Jake Knapp, 16. Davis Thompson at 17. Horschel, 18. I mentioned how Alex Noren played well here last time out. It was 19th. Andrew Novak at 20. Jason Day just misses the top 20 here. So, yeah, interesting thoughts here. And again, like you kind of look here, we have DraftKings salary here as well. Again, most of your top of the board here are making up your top 10 before you get into some of the discount guys, kind of rounding up the bottom of the top 10. So, yeah, interesting. Wyndham's 12 to 1. Short, but second. He opened at 14. Those have kind of gone away. Let's see what you got at Chris. I think he's still
get him 1450 at Chris. And then there's another gap, Sahith and Sal around 20. And then you take another little jump to the Jason Day, Siwoo Kim, Tony Finau chunk around 30. And then it gets basically Noren, Mitchell, Yeager, past that Kitayama, kind of in the 40, 50 to 60, which is, Hoagie, Patrick Rogers, Mackenzie Hughes, Aaron Rye, who I bet against last week, and it worked out. Jake Knapp is here. He's 67.50 at Chris. And then, there's going to be plenty of big numbers if you want to take some long shots. You can bet on some guys that have won this year. You can bet on Nick Dunlap at a huge price. You can bet on my guy Sam Ryder. I bet on him last week. Obviously, it didn't quite work out. But I had the right idea. Take somebody with a good price. Akshay, 80 to 1. Piss Bear, 80 to 1. Davis Thompson, a lot of people liked him. And Ryan Fox, 90 and 120. Homeless Hubs, 110. Trying to just Gim Reaper, Doug Gim, 68.50. Dahmen, you mentioned he's about 90. That checks out. Daniel Berger still getting huge numbers. And it feels like there could just be a week where I feel like we might have to pay a burger tax starting soon.
I know. I paid it last week, and it cashed quickly. I think bogeyed 3 of his first 5 holes, and it was like, all right, well, that's it.
He was done. So
quick eject.
The level that he can play at, he has top 10s in 3 of the majors, and some of those weren't all that recent, and it's been a while, but
sure.
Man, I mean, he can still, if he can find that, it's going to be one of those where he's a 150, 180 one week, and then suddenly the next week he's 35 to 1. So it
1000%.
might be just be little bets on Danny B every week as a little bit of a tax. I'm putting it down. I'll do it throughout the summer. Like I will pace, 20 the next 20 weeks he plays. If he's 150 or better, I'm just gonna. What's gonna be annoying is if he just top fives a couple weeks in a row, and then the prices will take quite a bit of a plummet. So, God, I don't need to add to the tax by like betting him top 10, top 20.
Well, I mean, I lost my Aaron Wise tax, so I can take a
You do have an open spot on the balance sheet. As far as this goes, Scotty Scheffler's odds imply he wins like 1 out of 4 times, which is pretty close, honestly, to where he could be at, especially with this field. I think his odds are pretty nuts on if you can get 3.5. Parlay it with something you like. Otherwise, probably leave him alone. You're not going to get rich betting guys at 3-1 to win tournaments unless it's 2000 and you're betting on Tiger Woods. But like you said, Clark, Sal, and Sahith. I don't know if any of those guys excite you at those prices with Scotty in the field.
That's the thing is like it feel like we're kind of in like a non-Scotty type outright situation where it's just really hard to make a case, especially for bombs. Like you could sell me on some of the top guys. Their prices are shorter than I would want them to be, considering Scotty is like sub 3. I don't hate the 14 on Wyndham. I would like Thigala, but like Thigala at 18, yeah, I guess 22 is out there, but he's like 18 and 20 for the most part. It's just really short for me. Just not a guy that I historically back because I feel like the approach game it's been better. It's just inconsistent in terms of like actually threatening to win. His short game stuff is great. This is a spot where it obviously is going to matter. He's not going to get penalized for the wayward stuff off the tee too. Zal, I mean, I'm surprised that he missed the cut of the players, but again, had been playing really good golf leading up to that. Texas kid too. I expect Zal to play pretty well here. I think, top 10 bets. I think I can get a top 10 at like even odds, basically plus 100, even on Zal at the top 10. He'll be in the mix there. They're interesting to me. I like Zal definitely more than Thigala at that same price. I'm surprised Thigala is shorter. Finau is really hard again. I went there last week. I know he's the defending champ, but he didn't play well at all last week. Missed the cut, and now we're paying shorter odds for him in a field with Scotty. That's a hard sell for me. Though you're getting a nice number. Chris is correct, basically. I feel like in the market where they're at 30, everything else on Finau is 20, 22. That's a reach. Just don't bet Jason Day sub 30. It's just not of interest to me. So, it's pretty much Clark, Thigala, Zalatoris to me. And I kind of like all of them, but the prices I don't like. I hate suggesting that people parlay a golf outright winner with something else that you like. It's such bad betting advice, bad financial advice. But like, do I want to not have Scotty winning in some way, shape, or form? Like, do you like UConn, Andy? I mean, who sell me on like who is going to? You're muted, but you can come back in and sell me on like UConn or someone else. I don't know. Like I
South Carolina women's basketball plus UConn to win this round. Oh man, my boy needs UConn bad. His Final Four in his bracket was Grand Canyon, McNeese State, James Madison, and UConn. So
okay,
he's really banking on UConn. He isn't winning at all. He first year filling up brackets. He really, really, really leaned on win-loss record. Those teams won like 30 games. They should beat everybody. Yeah, well, I'm gonna let you do this. We'll learn some good lessons. Your mom's gonna destroy you in a bracket pool. Yeah, I mean, find something to parlay it with. Pass, play some matchups, play some top 20s.
Play some without Scotty markets.
I'm curious about Kashmir Keith, and I know what happened on Sunday. Sure. I tweeted that out, dude. Because I watched the end. You couldn't watch it. I just had it on the shot tracker at the very end to see, because the tournament was over and he still had 18 to play, and he was sitting at T25. He came into the day with a 2-stroke lead. Mm-hmm. If you had a top, and people did message me in the replies that they had Keith top 20 bets. He needed a birdie on 18, and he got it. A really, really good approach shot, just to get a 9 for 4 chop on top 20. after, I mean, like if your guy goes into the last day with a lead, you're kind of cashing your top 20 bets at that point. You can spend that money, right? And that had to feel awful. What a roller coaster Sunday from him. He had an eagle in a round that was like 6 over.
Well, the Valspar is the home of the origin course of Full Keegan.
Yeah,
Keegan was the first
Keegan.
round leader and then shot 79 in round 2 and missed the cut. So like, that was kind of that course. But yeah, that's tough. The model we just built, Mitchell's fourth in the model. 3-putt avoidance.
You're getting it. Yeah, you're getting a similar price. And the difference is that you have a god playing golf here this week rather than the field last week. It was a good field. But it didn't include Scotty Scheffler. So you're getting a similar price. I think I could probably get there in Keith based on, we saw 3 really good rounds. We saw some good play, and I think some of the issues here, some of the issues we saw at the Valspar, you're not going to have here.
Yeah.
He's a decent course fit. I'm probably going to bet him this week, and it feels good to not being the FOMO guy because he won last week, because he did not.
Yeah, he's basically 40 across domestics, a little shorter, 37 and change on Chris. So yeah, I don't hate it. A couple guys that maybe a little bit longer shots. And I'm really trying. I haven't done anything yet. The numbers are still fine. They're going to be there. I just trying to make a decision on, do I even want to mess with outrights that aren't Scotty? I have not made that decision yet. A couple guys a little bit longer, not necessarily bombs, although one bomb. Steven Yeager profiles well for me here. T9 here last year. Like, there are 50s out there on Yeager, a little bit shorter elsewhere. Again, hits it really far. Again, not a big guy, but hits it further than you would think he would hit it. And again, like some of the courses that he's played well this year have been longer courses. Played well at Torrey, should have won there. Played well in Mexico. Again, not a tough course, but a longer course. He's been really good in like just driver heavy courses, approach on long courses. So like minus 105 to T40 is pretty nice on FanDuel for him. 50 to 1 in the outright market. Jake Knapp as well. I think you can find 60s. Let me see where Knapp is.
67 on Chris.
Okay.
You should find 60 to 70.
Just real easy length. The kid can hit it a mile. And just we saw the putting stats, the 3-putt avoidance. Let me see where Knapp is. He's just outside. I think he's in the top 20. Yeah, he was 16th in this model. He's 3rd in this field in 3-putt avoidance that we just spit in. Both approach buckets. He's 8th and 12th. Distance is just some of the stuff for distance is messed up because the players kind of forces you to lay back. But he's gained putting in 6 straight starts. Gained over a stroke putting in per round at the players. These are the same Poetry of greens that he saw at the players. So I think that's going to work for him in Texas as well. Again, like T40 is plus 115 on FanDuel. It's a nice number. Again, do I want to throw money on a 60 on him? Can he beat a Scotty Field? I'm not quite sure. And Bramlett's the kind of the bomb. Kind of touched on Bramlett. He's 150, I think, from an outright standpoint. Get a pretty nice top 20 number. Like, you get a longer T20 number on Bramlett than you get Scotty to win, plus 360 on him. Again, nice finish last week at Valspar. T17, hits it a mile. So he gets rewarded for the distance. And again, a nice little finish here last year as well. Again, decent from a 3-putt avoidance standpoint too. So I like Bramlett as kind of a longer guy. But again, do I want to mess with any outrights? I don't. I think these are probably finishing position bets for me for these longer guys.
Yeah, I mean, got to run here quick, but a couple of bombs. Yeager, like you mentioned, somebody I could look into.
You love Yeager.
Yeah, I love him. Decent distance, decent long irons, and the price is not electric, but good enough. Novak, based on the irons, and just a massive price. Ben Griffin, kind of the same thing. Plus, he's been good. Short game, good around the greens. Really good putter. Really good 3-putt avoidance, and he's just decent enough form, and he's going to be a guy that you're going to find close to 100 to 1. So a couple long shots that'll probably make the card. The whole thing the whole thing might be pretty short. It might just be a few matchups
Yeah.
again, looking further down the board. I do like these tournaments because they offer good down the board matchups. Like the Gim Rye matchup was just that popped off the page for me last week. Like it's fun when we have some of the names that aren't like, oh, it's Rory and Xander
Sure.
versus Cantlay and Cantlay versus Rory, and just all the top names mixed up together like you have in a major like the Masters coming up. So, which I will say it one last time. The prices will never be this low again. If you do want to build your own model, check it out on betsfordsgolf.com. We will grandfather you in for the rest of, I don't know, as long as the internet's around and I still work here. That's my, promise to you, whatever. So
I need to do some more research on the term grandfathered in. I want to know the origin story of that.
yeah, I got to dig into why college basketball has halves and not quarters. That
girls have
bothered me
quarters.
last night. Girls have quarters. High school ball has quarters. High school girls ball has quarters. European ball has quarters. It's literally the only one. So appreciate you guys. If you watched on YouTube, give us a thumbs up. A quick note before we go as well. We will not have the show on this YouTube channel anymore. We wanted to put all the golf in one spot. We put it on here because we're lazy and we already had this YouTube channel, but we are going to fire up a strictly BetSports Golf YouTube channel. So you don't, so if you like the football stuff and you don't want golf, you're not getting that. If you want golf and you don't want football, March Madness, you're not getting that. I'll have the link to that in the show notes in the description. We will tweet it out a bunch as well next week. So if you want to keep seeing this, you are going to have to go find that show, that page, that link, subscribe, hit the bell, all that jazz. Like I said, check the show notes for that. I'll have that for you as well. So for me and for Ryan and for BetSports Golf, we will catch you on the flip side.